Terra's Story, Chapter 34. They were quiet for a minute, still stunned. Then Cap shuddered and seemed to come back to himself. Well, we made some sort of progress here. We know more about what we're dealing with, and we have, new questions to dig into. I'm going on into the station to see what progress our repair teams have made. He glanced at the sky, which was lightening from full dark to pre-dawn gray. How are you all feeling? Too wired to do anything but dive into these next sets of questions, Cap, Joni announced. Brian nodded. Yeah, me too. Joni up for some collaboration? Joni shot him a thumbs-up sign and gestured for him to follow her. As they turned to walk away, Cap looked over at Terra. Kano, what about you? I need to stay here and listen, Cap. Mama. She couldn't quite articulate the strong sense that she needed solitude to tune into something else that wanted to come, that there was more here, by the lake, and that it was her work, alone. After all he'd just seen, Cap didn't question her. He simply got up and walked over to put a big hand on her shoulder. Just be careful, Kano. You know this paranormal territory better than I do, but I know enough now to know it's fucking dangerous. He squeezed her shoulder, then let his hand drop to turn and follow the others back the way they'd all come. As soon as she was well and truly alone, Terra settled herself on the ground, leaning back against a beautiful old grandmother tree. She looked up at the sky that was now shimmering silver, the clouds sparse and lined with a hint of orange. Terra felt the energy even before she saw movement out of the corner of her eye. The lush beauty of the woman who walked over and knelt on the ground beside her took her breath. Or maybe it was the impact of the field around her. Good morning, Mama. The Mo smiled at her fondly. Good work, daughter. Not only in the lake, but listening for what needed to happen next. She tilted her head, and Terra felt the intensity as Mama's lustrous, dark eyes scanned Terra's being. Terra couldn't hold back her question any longer. Mama, how could that thing take over Simeona? If it can do that, with all the power she holds, how does any human stand against its aggression? A tear trickled down her cheek, part confusion and part anxiety. That's what I came to talk to you about, daughter. I'm here to remind you that you have a powerful weapon that the dark cannot abide, even more powerful than your ability as a Mo shifter. The ultimate weapon, if you will, because in this world of light and dark, of every kind of duality, you need to move above the duality in order to access a reality where no judgment is necessary. Terra frowned. I have no clue what you're talking about. Mama sounds like gobbledygook to me. She actually felt like her brain had frozen, and all thoughts were locked in ice. Mama looked at Terra for a moment. Scooch forward from the tree, Terra, enough that I can get behind you. As Terra obeyed, Mama rose with a dancer's grace and moved to settle herself behind Terra, standing momentarily to blow a burst of air into the crown of Terra's head. Then she snapped her fingers as though sealing something. Terra felt as though her brain had thawed and some of her tension melted away. Mama settled back against the tree and put her hands on Terra's shoulders. Terra jerked slightly, feeling the surge of energy, instinctively resisting. Relax, daughter. I'm going to show you some things while I align your energies. Terra chose to let go, and the energy became a stream of warm bubbles tingling through her system as they washed away the residual heaviness of the thoughts that still tormented her. Then the images started. Terra tensed as she felt the chaotic energy of the demons dancing around some kind of throne where Mad Marius sat, his face distorted, the energy around him swirling in appalling shades of bile yellow and orange and murky greens and grays reminiscent of a fetid swamp. It's okay, daughter. He can't see or feel us this time. We're behind a veil in a different dimension. Besides, he's totally focused on his own delusions, the reality he's created and intends to expand. Mama's gentle fingers moved along the sides of Terra's neck, and she relaxed again. Just watch, Mama whispered. As Terra watched, one of the uglier demons that looked like some unholy offspring of a scorpion and a spider scampered up on the throne, scurrying around Marius's body and ending on his knees, facing him. Marius reached out and put both hands around its neck and began to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze until the head popped off, releasing a noxious green slime. Marius stuffed the head in his mouth and chewed, slime dribbling from the corners of his mouth and still oozing across his hands from the headless body on his lap. He licked it from his hands and began to tear off the legs, eating each one. The scorpion tail twitched as though to strike him, but he caught it and ripped off the stinger, stuffing it too in his mouth. Terra's stomach roiled at the spectacle, and she shifted and twitched. Mama's hands soothed her. "Just watch, daughter. Just watch." As she resigned herself, Terra realized that something was happening. The dancing demons had stilled and were looking around, their eyes flashing fear. Even Marius had stopped consuming his disgusting meal and was looking around, confused. Some kind of light was pouring into the scene, waves of brightness accompanied by tones that Terra experienced as a heavenly choir. But judging from their responses, the demons, particularly Marius, did not experience this invasion the same way. They cowered, making themselves as small as possible, shielding themselves as though the waves were an acid bath instead of blessings. The brightness increased. Waves of color like a dancing rainbow, accompanied by the most exquisite harmonies Terra had ever heard, or not heard, but felt. The demons scattered, scurrying away from the brightness, as though their lives depended on it. Marius shielded himself with his arms, then tore at his hair, then clutched his belly as he puked out the pieces of demon he had just consumed. When he jumped off the throne, Marius slid in the filthy slime that now covered the entire scene, his own vomit and the excrement of demons who had the shit scared out of them. He scurried as fast as hands and knees could carry him, vanishing into the darkness that enveloped the edges of the scene. The brightness and music continued to pour in. As Terra watched, the throne sprouted roots, then branches, then leaves, followed by flowers which turned into luscious-looking fruit. The waves of bright colors grew stronger still, and a cloudburst began to wash away the slime that covered the scene. It oozed away toward the edges of darkness, where it appeared to vanish in an abyss. In its place, blades of grass sprouted into a blanket of green, punctuated by the brilliant hues of wild flowers, poppy and orchid, sunflower and lily. Terra felt flutters in the field and heard the trills as a flock of birds descended, blending their songs with a loon's mournful cry. Finally, the waves of brilliance settled into a smooth, steady glow of sunlight on this beautiful meadow, where all signs of the previous darkness had been transformed. The transformation was anchored in the cells of Terra's body, the knowledge of it now imprinted on her soul. She sighed and collapsed against the lush bosom behind her, becoming aware again of the soft hands now cupping each side of her head. She shuddered. The energetic memory of the darkness dimmed, except to anchor by contrast the richer, stronger memory of the brightness. "Oh, my goddess," Terra murmured. She felt Mama's body jiggle with her chuckle and felt the firm squeeze of her arms, then the strong, soft hands pushed her away. She rolled away and turned to face the beautiful being lolling against the tree. "Mama," she breathed, "what did I just see?" "What do you think you saw, Terra?" came the soft query. "I can't even say, Mama. I can tell you what I felt as I watched. That first scene, the one that made me sick, I felt hatred, torment, fear, judgment. And then when the colors and the music started coming in, I felt, she thought a moment. Then I felt acceptance, forgiveness, compassion." Mama's head lifted in acknowledgement. "Yes, Terra, the bars of hell are thought forms that have been accepted as true, the belief that one is unlovable, unworthy, deserving of judgment and punishment. Demons are beings that have become so twisted with self-hatred and delusion that any hint of love terrorizes them. They've forgotten love exists, and they don't want to remember because the loss is too painful. They run screaming for the familiarity of the torment they've created around them. They resist the brilliance and harmony of love because it is no longer part of the reality they've created. This is your ultimate weapon, love." Terra exhaled the breath she'd been holding. "Mama, that sounds like soft nonsense, like throwing moonbeams and unicorn dust at an army of orcs with supernatural powers." "What do you think love is, Terra?" Mama whispered. Terra thought a moment. "Well, it's easier to say what it's not, Mama. It's not lust, nor control, nor manipulation. It's certainly not expectations." She cocked her head to one side, as though to hear her thoughts better. "What it is? Well, I know it's an energy, a physical force that affects everything it touches, a frequency or a vibration that's, well, it feels like home. It's sentient too. I mean, I can feel it alive, watching, and often comforting and encouraging. When I'm bathed in love, like from you or Dad or Mamo, my sense of myself expands in a way that makes me feel free and fearless. My creativity flows, whether I'm cooking or dancing or painting or just whatever I'm doing. It's pretty damn blissful. Terra smiled as memories of such events flashed across the screen of her mind. Yes, daughter, that's more than a great start. Trying to define love is something like trying to describe color to a blind person. It's something you experience in order to know. The worst crime against a human is to separate her from the love that is hers always, because that is the same as separating her from her source. Source, love. I experience them as the same thing, murmured Terra. Mama, am I right to think? Is it true that we swim in divine source like a fish swims in water? At least that's my experience. I feel sorry for people who believe the world, actually the universe, is a dark and dangerous place. I reject that belief. When I look for love for light, I always find love and light, even in the darkness, even in police work, where the focus is so much on the darkness. And perhaps that's why you were guided to police work for part of your life, Terra, to be the contradiction to the dark, with your loving heart and desire to protect and nourish. Even when you were drowning in darkness, daughter, you were holding light you couldn't see. And you are anchored in higher truth, for in this universe, whatever you believe, daughter, you're right.